How you guys doing? Cool. Awesome. So a couple of years, I went into a journey. I decided that there's a lot of really cool myths and creation stories about how we got here, but none of them that we know are based off of the science that we currently have now. Yeah, they're based off of like old science. So what I wanted to do is I want to reboot and do a myth, a creation story that told how we got here, but through a scientific lens that we currently understand now. So what that entailed was that as I started to write this thing down, it was an epic poem sort of storytelling format. The Big Bang ended up being this story with like conflict and resolution. It was a war story between matter and antimatter that ended up in a peace concert, right? And then when we got into the stars, that became a disco story where every star was a disco, and like we did all these different dances, the hustle, the bus stop, and the bump, and each configuration had different numbers of protons and neutrons, which created the periodic table. And then we went into the solar system and everything that had to happen to create life. There was a sort of a love story, a triangle love story between the sun, the earth, and the moon. And the earth eventually gets pregnant. She gives birth to a single-celled organism. It evolves through all the different, from bacteria and archaea and photosynthetic bacteria, coral polyps, worms, starfish, fish, sharks, rays, all the way to amphibians and reptiles, mammals, and finally us. And then once humans are established, we migrate from Africa throughout the rest of the world. And then I sat down to write scene 6, which was about the future. And as I started to write that piece, what I realized was that I couldn't talk about the future without addressing global climate change, because that is the scientific problem we have to figure out right now. And as I started to write that, I realized that, well, that's what I'm going to do for you guys. I'm going to do part of scene 6, the last part of scene 6, which is about the future in regards to global climate change and energy. Yeah, because the two are one and the same. So here we go. Scene 6 from The Story of Everything. Last 10 minutes. It's on. Where do we come from? No one knows, but we do know a lot about everything, though. So many different crossroads, but the paths look the same. The could have gone different, but it went this way. Like a hopscotch game of infinite time. Every time we move forward, there could have been 9 parallel dimensions, but it's all in the past. What comes in the future? It depends who you ask. Because if you ask a climate scientist, she'll tell you that worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario is scenario 1, game over. Runaway greenhouse effect such that everything dies. All life as we know it goes extinct. Everything. Nada. No. No. So. Bado. Efes. Madu. Ling. Ole. 0. The earth will shake us off like fleas and continue on as she pleases, and maybe life gets bored again sometime later. Or maybe it doesn't. No big deal, good game, well played. You had a good run in life. Mama Earth gave birth to a single-celled organism. It thrived and reproduced for billions of years, and then it all died out. Like every life cycle of everything that we've ever known about. Or maybe the climate scientists will tell you about slightly better scenario 2. Reboot. Certainly at the very least, there'll be some bacteria and archaea that survive because life tends to figure out a way to stick around when the chips are down. And besides, those things are amazing. There are archaea living near deep sea volcanic vents at temperatures up to 251 degrees Fahrenheit. And there are bacteria living in the spent nuclear fuel rod containers that we've buried underground to sit and decay for thousands of years. They are thriving off of ionizing radiation just fine. Certainly, some of these guys will be around long after we wipe out all other life on this planet. But then there's scenario 3, the extreme, which is even more likely. That every kingdom will send its hardiest species into the next era to represent them. The plants will send the seaweeds and the drought-resistant bushes and grasses. The succulents and the cacti, they will all do fine. And the animals will send the crustaceans and the insects. The fish, the sharks, the rays, the turtles, the crocodiles, the snakes, the seals, the whales, the dolphins, the camels, and the kangaroos, and the fungi, shoot, they'll spore it up, outlasting whatever extreme conditions we throw their way. But then there's scenario 4. No more us. Which is to say that this world will look a lot like how it does now, except with us humans gone. Our factories and high-rises will serve as monuments to the foreshadowing of our end times, like the statues on Rapa Nui, like the Mayan temples or the Egyptian pyramids. The animals will use our apartments, offices, and stores for shelter. And then there's scenario 5, evolution. Which is to say that we survive, but we evolve into some completely different species, like how we've done for millions of years, ever since we branched off from the chimpanzees to become hominins. Like, maybe we become more heat tolerant. Or maybe we go back into the oceans, developing better swimming mechanisms like our seal whale and dolphin cousins. Or maybe we go cyborg, incorporating technology into our skin, bones, and brains. Side note, man, if we all had biological USB, Wi-Fi, or Bluetooth, we could have just beamed this whole conference to you guys. We could sleep in tomorrow. But then there's scenario 6, a simpler time, which is to say that we survive as humans, but all the major population centers get wiped out. We migrate towards the north of the South Poles where it's not so scorching hot, live and grow our food near the Arctic or Antarctica, live in small villages in suitable places, live sustainably off the land, return to a simpler time, tell stories about the great civilizations that once thrived. And then there's scenario 7, business as usual. We continue on as we are now, heavily dependent on fossil fuels, with wars to obtain and control resources disguised as conflicts based on cultural or political differences, and some countries do just fine, while others dwindle because they live in constant turmoil, while some get completely devastated by natural disasters and drought, while the heat slowly rises. And then there's scenario 8. We fully integrate the cutting-edge technology that we already have right now. We phase out our fossil fuels, survive purely on solar, wind, and geothermal, store the excess in batteries for hydrogen or hydrogen for fuel cells for when we need it. We establish an equilibrium with our ecosystem, take care of our land, take care of our water, take care of our well-being, live sustainably. I like scenario 8, y'all. Yo, we could do scenario 8 right now. And then there's scenario 9. 9 lives, 9 times, 9 tries, we thrive off a cutting-edge technology that revolutionizes everything. Simply put, we develop fusion energy as a reliable resource, as a near-infinite, environmentally friendly source of energy to usher us into the next era of abundance. There is hope here. And whether it's scenario 8 or scenario 9, it doesn't matter. We will become sustainable. We must become sustainable because the moment we perfect this, the moment we get this, we all win together. Game on, because energy is the currency of the universe. Think about it, yeah? Energy is the currency of the universe, which is to say that we could pay for anything and everything the moment we figure out how to become fully sustainable. We'd have infinite energy at our fingertips. There is hope here. Like a hopscotch game of infinite time. Every time we move forward, there could have been 9 parallel dimensions, and it's all in our hands. 9 scenarios. And our roles within an undefined future, I mean, honestly, it's up to us. The world we choose to live in. The side of history that we choose to stand on, but what is not up to us is the delusion to claim ignorance. And if you choose to do nothing, I guess that's your choice. You better just hope that the rest of us figure out scenarios 8 or scenario 9 with no glitches in their full implementation. But if you happen to be down to help create a global self-sustaining community, if you happen to be into making a conscious progress towards an eco-conscious, thriving community right now, then choose your contribution. We can start anywhere. Shoot, we can even start right here. By by tapping back into our humanity, by increasing our levels of peace, by growing into more conscious beings, by saying hi to strangers on the street, by spending less of our days in seats in front of screens and more on our feet, by being more healthy and eating less meat, support local everything when we can, renewable, reusable, sustainable, generic labels, reduce, reuse, recycle, walk or ride a bicycle, maximum awareness, minimalist life, solar water heaters, photovoltaics, LED lights, compost used for food gardens, digging bins for thrift shop bargains, hybrid, electric, alternative green, heirloom seeds, more diversity, more planting of fruit trees, less packaging, less processing, more understanding, more investing in businesses that simply get it, and politicians and policies that are progressive, the ones who believe in future technologies, and fusion and solar energy. So stand up. Let your voices be heard and vote with your wallets. Less plastic, more organic. Less oil, more soil. When it's yellow, it mellows. Less paper, more digital. These actions are simple and real. It's not all hypothetical or intangible. So call me symbolic, but it all adds up in the end. And if we can reduce our carbon footprint just a little bit, and if everybody else does too, imagine the impact we could have. Imagine how sustainable we could be and how much lighter this world would feel in our hands as we pass it on to our children and our children's children. So take a look at our addictions and slowly wean ourselves off them. It's not too late. And let's solve this global climate change and energy problem and live our lives out to old age. And one day, when we fade, we'll know that we did our best, because that's all we ever really could do in tonight and in this life that just might be enough. Cool. Thank you.